It's no secret that weather patterns around the globe are changing. Extreme heat waves, unusual droughts, and intense storms have become far more frequent in recent years, and many of these shifts can be attributed to two significant climatic phenomena, El Niño and La Niña. These weather patterns, which occur as part of a cycle in the Pacific Ocean, not only affect regions near the equator, but they can send shockwaves throughout the world. From the Americas to Europe, and from Asia to Australia, the impacts of El Niño and La Niña are being felt with increasing intensity. Right now, many experts are bracing for the return of La Niña, with predictions that it could bring a period of harsh weather in the coming months, potentially setting the stage for a winter of horror in 2024. But before we dive into what's to come, it's crucial to understand what El Niño and La Niña really are and how they operate. At their core, these are disruptions in the oceanic and atmospheric conditions of the Pacific Ocean, and they have profound effects on global weather patterns. Their impacts are so widespread and intense that they influence everything from the temperature of the oceans to the severity of storms, droughts, and even the spread of diseases. As the world grapples with the ongoing challenges of climate change, these natural phenomena have become a focal point of concern for scientists, governments, and ordinary citizens alike. The story of El Niño and La Niña is a tale of two siblings, one hot and one cold. El Niño, often described as the hot sibling, is associated with a warming of the surface waters of the eastern Pacific Ocean, particularly along the coasts of South America. This warming alters the flow of atmospheric currents, which in turn affects weather patterns around the world. When El Niño is in effect, parts of the world experience hotter than usual temperatures, with some areas suffering from droughts, wildfires, and heat waves. On the flip side, La Niña, the cold sibling, is characterized by a cooling of the Pacific waters, and this, too, can cause dramatic shifts in weather patterns. While El Niño brings warmth and wet conditions to some regions, La Niña often results in colder, drier conditions, with some places experiencing intense winter storms, flooding, and drought. In many ways, the phenomena of El Niño and La Niña are part of a natural climate cycle known as the El Niño Southern Oscillation, ENSO, a system that has been operating for thousands of years. During the neutral or normal phase, the trade winds blow from east to west across the equator, pushing warm surface waters from the eastern Pacific toward the western Pacific. This creates a temperature gradient where the western Pacific is warmer than the eastern Pacific. The cooler waters of the eastern Pacific promote upwelling, bringing nutrients to the surface and supporting the rich marine ecosystems off the coast of South America. But when El Niño strikes, the normal pattern is disrupted. The trade winds weaken or even reverse direction, causing warm waters to move eastward, which results in a dramatic shift in weather patterns. This disruption is often accompanied by extreme weather events that can cause widespread damage. For instance, during El Niño events, the coastlines of North and South America tend to experience wetter conditions, as the warming of the ocean causes more moisture to evaporate into the atmosphere. This can lead to severe storms, flooding, and landslides. In contrast, La Niña brings with it drier conditions, particularly in Southeast Asia and Australia, where the cooler waters in the Pacific Ocean disrupt the usual rainfall patterns, often leading to devastating droughts and wildfires. These disruptions can have a significant impact on agriculture, as crops are particularly sensitive to shifts in temperature and precipitation. For instance, El Niño can cause crops to wither in regions that typically rely on consistent rainfall, while La Niña can cause water shortages in areas that depend on regular rainfall. The agricultural sector, in particular, is highly vulnerable to these climate shifts, as farmers struggle to adapt to rapidly changing conditions. And it's not just agriculture that is affected. El Niño and La Niña can also have devastating consequences on local economies, as countries and businesses are forced to contend with the fallout from these extreme weather events. In fact, the effects of El Niño and La Niña extend far beyond the immediate regions where they originate. Due to a phenomenon known as teleconnections, these weather events can have cascading effects on weather patterns in distant parts of the world. For example, the impacts of El Niño and La Niña can influence rainfall patterns in regions like the Horn of Africa, where El Niño can bring heavier than usual rains and cause flooding, while La Niña can lead to droughts and food shortages. In Europe, these events can cause shifts in weather patterns, with El Niño bringing wetter conditions to parts of southern Europe and La Niña contributing to colder, harsher winters in northern regions. But the effects of these climatic phenomena aren't just limited to the weather. They can also have significant implications for public health, especially when it comes to the spread of infectious diseases. One of the most concerning aspects of both El Niño and La Niña is their potential to exacerbate the spread of diseases like influenza, malaria, and dengue fever. The changing weather conditions can influence the migration patterns of animals, including migratory birds, which can carry diseases from one region to another. For example, during an El Niño event, birds carrying avian influenza may travel farther than usual, potentially spreading the virus to other species, including domestic poultry. In some cases, these viruses can mutate and develop the ability to infect humans, leading to potential pandemics. This was the case during the 2009 H1N1 outbreak, which followed a pronounced La Niña phase. Experts have noted that the spread of new flu strains often coincides with La Niña events, as the migration patterns of birds are altered by changes in temperature and weather conditions. The connection between these weather events and disease outbreaks is a reminder that climate and health are inextricably linked, and that global climate shifts can have far-reaching consequences for public health. In addition to health risks, the economic toll of El Niño and La Niña events can be significant. In regions where agriculture is a major part of the economy, crop failures caused by extreme weather can lead to food shortages and skyrocketing prices. This, in turn, can have a ripple effect on local economies, leading to job losses, economic instability, and social unrest. Furthermore, the cost of responding to these disasters, whether through emergency relief, rebuilding efforts, or public health initiatives, can strain government budgets and divert resources away from other critical areas. Looking ahead, scientists are becoming increasingly concerned about the potential for even more extreme El Niño and La Niña events in the future, driven by the ongoing impacts of climate change. As global temperatures rise, the intensity of these events may increase, leading to more frequent and severe weather extremes. For example, the 2023 to 2024 El Niño event is already causing record-breaking heat waves, wildfires, and droughts across parts of the world, and experts predict that the next La Niña event could bring similarly dramatic shifts in global weather patterns. Some scientists have even raised the possibility of an Uber El Niño, a supercharged version of the phenomenon that could push global temperatures to new extremes. If such an event were to occur, it could exacerbate the impacts of climate change, further accelerating the rise in global temperatures and intensifying the frequency of heat waves, storms, and other extreme weather events. The idea of an Uber El Niño is both concerning and compelling, as it suggests that the future of our planet could be shaped not only by the long-term effects of climate change, but also by the unpredictable swings of the El Niño-La Niña cycle. In light of these concerns, governments, scientists, and communities are working to develop strategies for mitigating the impacts of El Niño and La Niña events. This includes improving early warning systems, developing better climate models, and investing in infrastructure that can withstand the extreme weather events that may occur in the future. By understanding the patterns of these climate phenomena and preparing for their potential impacts, we can better equip ourselves to deal with the challenges that lie ahead. The next few months could see a return to the cooler side of this global climate swing. As La Niña prepares to make its appearance, the world may face a winter of extreme cold, harsh storms, and the unpredictable consequences that come with such shifts in weather. While the term winter of horror may sound like a headline from a sensationalized news outlet, the reality is that these weather patterns have the potential to bring serious disruptions to our daily lives, from power outages to disruptions in food supplies. At the same time, the increasing frequency and intensity of El Niño and La Niña events are stark reminders of the interconnectedness of our planet's climate systems. These events don't just affect the weather, they have cascading effects on ecosystems, economies, and public health around the world. As we face the challenges of the future, it's clear that understanding and preparing for these climate swings will be key to building resilience in the face of a changing world. Whether the upcoming La Niña event brings a bitter winter or a reprieve from the heat, one thing is certain: the effects of these climatic phenomena will continue to shape our world in ways that are both profound and unpredictable. The question is no longer whether we will experience extreme weather, it's how we will adapt to it and how we will rise to the challenge of living in an era of climate extremes. The time to prepare is now, and the knowledge we gain from understanding these patterns could be the key to weathering whatever comes next.